I won't lie to you, it's been rough being a Metroid fan nowadays. The series is turning 30 years old as of 2016, and Nintendo has graced us with a Metroid game that none of us were really asking for. Even on the actual anniversary of the franchise, Nintendo chose to acknowledge National Cats Day over their own IP. Although it may seem like Nintendo ignoring the Metroid community with Federation Force taking down download links for a fan remake of Metroid 2 and ignoring the series' existence up to this point is new behavior, please understand that it isn't. Nintendo and many other game companies often treat their IPs with similar ignorance when they don't view them as being successful. Great examples of this are Chibi Robo, Croc, Spyro, Klonoa, Banjo-Kazooie, and WarioWare. Of course, Nintendo tried to revitalize interest in Chibi Robo with Ziplash, but we all know how that turned out. It seems like they're trying to do the same thing with Metroid and Federation Force. It's no secret that Other M didn't sell well, but unlike the poor performance of Chibi Robo Photo Finder and Park Patrol, Other M didn't sell well because it received generally lukewarm reviews and wasn't what the fans wanted. But that's another topic for a video that'll be coming out as soon as sales numbers are released for Federation Force. Speaking of Federation Force, now that I've finally had time to play this game that will eventually get cancelled by a petition of devoted individuals, what do I think of it? How is this as a spin-off installment in the Metroid series and as a regular game by its own merits? Well, something I think worth noting right off the bat is that this is not a Metroid game per se. It's a spin-off that has Metroid Prime tacked onto the title for the sake of advertising. If you took away that Metroid moniker, nothing substantial would have changed. As a matter of fact, the producer initially planned for this to be a generic co-op shooter on the 3DS until it was eventually altered into a Metroid spin-off by Nintendo executives. There are Metroid elements, which we'll delve into later, but all in all, this is just a portable co-op FPS. I'd like to note that I played the entirety of Federation Force on a regular 3DS, so all my criticism, if any, of the controls will be referring to that system and not the new 3DS. I don't have an operating new 3DS at the time, so I'm not going to make up any information about how the C-Stick improves the combat or whatever. From what I can tell from my Blast Ball review comments, it does help with aiming, which is nice. That's another thing. Go watch my video on Blast Ball if you're interested. It's a minigame bundled in the Federation Force package, and something I won't be talking about here since I already covered it. The plot of Federation Force has little to offer in terms of complex storytelling devices and heavy themes. Essentially, the galaxy is in peril by a league of space pirates, and despite the Galactic Federation's best efforts to eradicate them... Wait. You mean the Federation has decided that the only way to put an end to the space pirates is to eliminate every last one of them? Talk about trying to start an intergalactic dictatorship by brutally crushing the opposition. I mean, what have the space pirates ever done to anybody except for pillage, murder, and generally wreak havoc? The Federation has gone as far to destroy the planet Phase, and you're telling me the space pirates are the bad guys? Wow, I guess Federation Force does have some mature themes of gray versus gray morality. Anyways, after you're given some basic exposition from a title crawl, you're ordered by your friendly boss to go on missions and find out what the space pirates are up to in order to stop them. Along the way, you'll also have to solve problems on the planets of Talvania, Bion, and Excelsion that seem like pointless errands initially until the space pirates come into play. Character development is non-existent, the dialogue from the boss is drab with no personality, and it's hard to get invested because there's not much at stake. Nevertheless, I can't say I hate Federation Force for not having a compelling narrative. Besides, the gameplay is the real focus of this co-op shooter, so it'd be wrong to harshly criticize something that you can skip with ease and doesn't affect how much fun I was having. Something worth noting, however, is how interesting it is to see the events of the Metroid Prime trilogy from a perspective other than Samus's. bosses. Some might call this contrived or stupid, but as someone who has played the Metroid Prime trilogy, I commend the developers for trying something new. The one and only gripe I have is that I wish the boss's dialogue screens could have had some more musical or visual variation. Since I sat through all of them to see if I was missing anything, the theme that plays in the background gets noticeably repetitive very quickly. Aside from that one monotonous track, the music in Federation Force is quite good. I always enjoy the atmospheric tunes in the Metroid series, so I'm happy to say this game is filled with a bunch of great ones. Although the aforementioned boss's theme does wear its welcome, it's certainly not awful by itself. Plus, there are an assortment of world themes, battle themes, menu music, and different tracks from Blast Ball that add variety to the mix. I haven't had the chance to listen to the OST on its own yet since it's not up on YouTube, but I imagine I'll be looking for some to add to my mixtape like the title or battle theme. Speaking of the presentation, I also think the visuals are very well detailed for being on a 3DS. Character models, especially the mechs and enemies you'll be fighting, are nicely textured and have a distinct charm to them. Some foes, like the Ice Titan, look really intimidating, which only adds to the bleak atmosphere of every world. There's one mission where you have to trap 4 of these monsters, and the way they look and move are enough to make that simple mission more exciting. Not to mention, the environments are all diverse, which gives each planet its own unique feel. For example, Bion is a desert planet that contains the ruins of a forgotten advanced alien society that still has some functioning technology lying around, and Talvania has you traversing through a filthy factory. These seemingly lifeless locations are fun to romp through and make for interesting level themes. They set up a fascinating galaxy with a good atmosphere of isolation, and because of that, I would say Federation Force is one of the most visually intriguing games on the 3DS as a whole. Even without the vibrant colors of something like Fantasy Life, I dig the art style that, despite going for a lonely, hopeless aesthetic, doesn't look too dull or muddy. With all that other stuff out of the way, why don't we discuss perhaps the most polarizing part of Federation Force, the gameplay. Like I said before, this is a co-op shooter, but you can play it in single player like I did for most of my playtime. Basically, you're tasked with missions to do by utilizing your mech suit. Much like Tails and Eggman in Sonic Adventure 2, you can shoot and charge your lasers with A, jump, hover, and sidestep with B, lock onto enemies with L, and more precisely aim by holding R and using the gyroscope. I've said it once, and I'll say it again, the 3DS is not the desired platform for housing shooting games. I know Kid Icarus Uprising works well enough once you get the hang of things, but my issue with Federation Force's controls are just that. They're not intuitive. Because the motion controls are so clunky, it makes it hard to shoot enemies without just aligning yourself to them with the control pad or always locking onto them. Sure, those two methods of defeating foes and overcoming obstacles work, but I would have liked the additional streamlined freedom of being able to precisely aim my reticle without the need to lock on at all times. I know the original Prime games were exactly like this, however, if you give the player the potential for shooting freedom, you sort of expect it to work naturally. If the more precise aiming by gyro controls works for you, that's great, and I hope you keep on enjoying them. For me, it was always a struggle to get the reticle where I wanted it to go. There are bits when you have to move a ball into a hole over some ledge, and to do that, you have to aim your reticle at the bottom of the ball and shoot it with a charge shot to make it go flying. Well, since you have to hold R and A at the same time while frantically moving your 3DS, it can make things unnecessarily difficult. Again, this is more of an issue with the 3DS than Federation Force, but it's something that I couldn't get working and hampered the amount of fun I was having. Looking past these control issues, the missions you embark on are entertaining and well designed. Each mission presents you with a different objective every time, so it's hard to get bored by the gameplay. Not only that, but the levels are laid out in a very Metroid-esque way, with its fair share of backtracking for extra collectibles, albeit not satisfying to go out of your way for. I think the level design, especially on Talvania and Bion, is solid and makes for an enjoyable mission mission-based experience. Once again, this is not exactly like Metroid in the way that exploration isn't open-ended and there aren't permanent upgrades to gather as a reward, but I don't think that makes the game bad. Sure, collecting mods is pointless since you can complete the game with just the basic one installed and be fine, and the way certain levels can discourage backtracking is annoying, but all in all, using your mech to complete these missions is fun. As you go on, the challenge also starts to increase, which was a nice surprise. Furthermore, the multiplayer is solid and feels very natural. Online is stable, and going on missions with friends can either be a blast or a frustrating slog. Overall, I absolutely loved Metroid Prime Federation Force, and I'm not just saying that to be a contrarian since this is the most despised thing to come out of Nintendo since Color Splash's reveal. I came into this spin-off with zero expectations and no anger, and I ended up having an enjoyable time. The level design is thoughtfully crafted, missions are great, multiplayer is fun, the presentation's wonderful, and although the controls and plot aren't the best, they don't ruin the game. I have to reiterate, this is not Metroid, but it is a good game and spin-off. In my opinion, this is well worth the $40. It's got a lot of content for that price tag, and while I don't want this to be a trend for the Metroid series, for just one game, it's harmless and interesting. Don't wait for a price drop or sale on this one. If you're interested, go buy Federation Force when it comes out. For being on the 3DS, I think Next Level Games did a spectacular job. As always, if you disagree or agree with me, let me know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and take care. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.